The throne room of the Aurelian Empire was silent in a way that felt heavy and wrong. It was a vast chamber made of pale crystal and flowing metal, large enough to hold hundreds, yet no one spoke. Even the air seemed afraid to move. Soft blue light floated near the ceiling, but it could not hide the truth lying at the center of the room. The alien princess was dying. She lay on a raised platform shaped like a smooth leaf, her body surrounded by glowing symbols that shifted and pulsed weakly. Her skin, once bright like polished silver, had dulled to a pale gray. Long breaths came slowly, uneven and shallow. Each one looked like it might be her last. The royal family stood nearby, unmoving. The queen's hands were clenched tightly at her sides, sharp nails digging into her palms. The king stared without blinking, his tall form rigid, as if moving would make the moment real. Around them stood the best healers in the empire, their faces tense and ashamed. They had tried everything: ancient medicine, advanced machines, energy rituals passed down for thousands of cycles. Nothing had worked. A soft sound came from one of the floating scanners. A low tone. A warning. The princess's life signs dropped again. The queen closed her eyes for a brief second. Her shoulders trembled, just a little. At the far edge of the chamber, almost forgotten, stood a small group of humans. They were guests, brought only as observers for a diplomatic exchange. Humans were new to the wider galaxy. They had limited technology compared to the old empires. Most advanced species considered them fragile, loud, and biologically unimpressive. One of them was a human soldier named Daniel Reeves. He stood straight, hands behind his back, wearing a simple uniform with no glowing symbols or energy shields. He had been told not to move unless ordered. Still, his eyes never left the princess. Daniel did not understand alien medicine, but he understood dying. He had seen it on battlefields back on Earth. He recognized the signs, the stillness, the quiet panic, the way everyone tried not to accept what was coming. A healer stepped back from the platform, his voice shaking as he spoke to the king. "There is nothing more we can do. Her core energy is collapsing. At most, minutes remain." A sound escaped the queen's throat. It was not a word. It was pain. The princess's body twitched suddenly. Her breathing hitched, then slowed further. The symbols around her dimmed. Alarms did not blare. The room was too respectful for that. Instead, the light shifted to a deeper blue, a silent signal of critical failure. Daniel felt something twist in his chest. He knew he was not supposed to interfere. Humans had been warned clearly: do not touch royal beings. Do not cross the inner circle. Do not act without permission. One mistake could cause an incident that damaged relations forever. Still, when the princess's body jerked again, sliding slightly toward the edge of the platform, Daniel reacted without thinking. He stepped forward. Several alien guards noticed too late. A few sharp sounds of alarm escaped them as they reached for their weapons, but Daniel was already there. He reached out to steady her, his bare hand brushing against her arm. The moment his skin touched hers, the entire throne room froze. Not metaphorically, literally. The floating symbols around the princess flickered violently, then stopped. The scanners let out sharp, confused tones. Light flashed across the chamber walls as systems reacted to readings they did not understand. Daniel felt a strange warmth surge through his arm. It was not painful. It was not electric. It felt like standing too close to a fire on a cold night. He pulled his hand back instantly. I'm sorry," he said, his voice loud in the silence. "I didn't mean she was falling, No one answered him. The queen stared at the platform, her eyes wide. The healers rushed forward, ignoring Daniel completely now, their attention fixed on the princess. "She's stabilizing," one of them whispered. Another healer checked the readings, disbelief spreading across his face. Her core energy. It stopped collapsing. The princess's chest rose, fell, rose again. Her breathing was still weak, but it was no longer fading. Daniel stood frozen, heart pounding. Guards surrounded him now, weapons raised but uncertain. Humans were not supposed to be dangerous. Yet something had happened, something no one could explain. The king lifted one hand, slowly. "Lower your weapons," he commanded. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. The queen stepped closer to the platform. She reached out, but stopped just short of touching her daughter, afraid to disturb whatever fragile balance now existed. "What happened?" she asked quietly. The healers exchanged confused looks. "We do not know," one admitted. There was a surge. "Not from our systems, not from the princess herself." Another healer turned slowly toward Daniel. It came from him. Every eye in the room shifted to the human. Daniel swallowed. "I didn't do anything," he said honestly. "I swear, I just touched her." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Touch alone should not do anything, especially not from a human. The scanners chimed again. This time the sound was different, steadier. The princess's skin regained a faint shimmer. Color returned slowly, like dawn creeping across a dark sky. The queen covered her mouth with one trembling hand. "She is recovering," a healer said, voice filled with shock. "Slowly, but she is recovering." Daniel felt his legs weaken. He leaned back slightly, supported by one of the other humans behind him. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," he said quietly. The king finally looked at him directly. His gaze was intense, ancient, and full of questions. "You may not have meant it," the king said, "but you may have changed everything." The princess stirred. Her fingers twitched. A faint sound escaped her lips, barely audible. The room leaned in, her eyes opened just a fraction, unfocused and dim. Still, they turned, slowly, until they found Daniel. For a moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Her lips moved again. This time, the sound was clearer. "Warm," she whispered. Then her eyes closed once more, and she drifted back into unconsciousness. The silence that followed was not empty anymore. It was full of fear, hope, and a growing realization that humans were not as simple as the galaxy believed. Daniel stood at the center of it all, confused and afraid, knowing only one thing for certain. He had touched a dying alien princess, and she had lived. The silence after the princess spoke did not fade quickly. It stayed in the throne room like a living thing, heavy and watching. No one moved for several long seconds. Even the floating lights seemed to dim, as if unsure what to do next. Then the healers began speaking all at once. "This is not possible. The readings are wrong. Check the core energy again." "I am checking it." Their voices overlapped as they rushed around the platform. New symbols appeared in the air, brighter and faster than before. The machines hummed louder, confused by the sudden change in the princess's condition. Daniel stood where he was, surrounded by guards. His heart was still racing. His hand felt warm, even though he had not touched her again. He stared at his fingers, flexing them slowly, trying to understand what had just happened. One of the human delegates whispered behind him, "Daniel, what did you do?" He shook his head. "Nothing. I swear. I didn't feel anything strange. Just warm." The queen straightened, forcing herself to breathe. Hope was dangerous. She knew that better than anyone. She had seen false recoveries before, moments where the body seemed to fight back, only to fail again. Still, this was different. The energy readings did not lie. She turned to the lead healer. "Explain," she said. The healer bowed his head slightly. Her core energy has stopped breaking apart. Not only that, it is reorganizing. Slowly, but in a stable pattern. That should not be possible, the king said. Not at this stage. Yes, the healer agreed. That is why we are confused. His eyes shifted again to Daniel. The guards tightened their circle. Daniel raised his hand slowly, palms open. If I did something wrong, I'll accept the punishment, he said. But please, I didn't plan this. I didn't even know touching her was dangerous. The king studied him carefully. Humans were expressive creatures. Their faces showed fear and honesty easily. Daniel did not look like someone hiding a weapon or a secret technique. The queen spoke softly. Lower the weapons. He will not be harmed. The guards hesitated again, then stepped back slightly, though they did not leave. One healer approached Daniel, holding a small scanning device. We need to examine you, he said. Do not resist. Daniel nodded. Okay. The device hovered around him, emitting soft pulses of light. Numbers and symbols scrolled rapidly across its surface. The healer frowned. His biology is simple, he said. No internal energy core, no external power nodes, no artificial enhancements. Then how did he affect her? Another healer demanded. I do not know. The princess breathed again, deeper this time. Her chest rose more strongly, her body no longer fighting for every breath. The color in her skin deepened, the silver glow slowly returning. The queen reached out. Unable to stop herself this time, she gently touched her daughter's forehead. She is warm, the queen whispered. She was cold before. The healer nodded slowly. Yes, her internal systems are restarting. A strange feeling spread through the room, relief mixed with fear. Relief that the princess might live. Fear of the unknown force that had saved her. The king turned back to Daniel. You will remain here, he said. You are not a prisoner, but you are not free to leave. Daniel swallowed. I understand. The human delegation was escorted to a nearby chamber, though Daniel was separated from them. He was brought to a quiet room with smooth walls and soft light. No restraints were placed on him, but guards stood outside. He sat alone, hands resting on his knees, thoughts racing. What if touching her again made things worse? What if he was some kind of danger? He had grown up ordinary, no strange powers, no experiments, just a soldier who followed orders. Hours passed. Back in the medical wing, the princess's condition continued to improve. The healers worked carefully, afraid to push too hard. Every scan showed the same impossible truth. Her body was repairing damage that should have been permanent. One healer finally spoke the question all of them feared. What if the human contact triggered this recovery? The room went quiet again. That would mean, another healer began, that humans possess a biological trait we have never documented. The first finished. The queen closed her eyes. Or that my daughter responded to him alone. The king frowned. Why would she? No one had an answer. When the princess stirred again, it was stronger this time. Her eyes opened fully, glowing faintly. She looked around slowly, confusion clear on her face. Mother, she whispered. The queen rushed forward, tears spilling freely now. I am here. You are safe. The princess frowned slightly. It was dark, she said weakly. Cold. You are back, the queen said. That is all that matters. The princess's gaze drifted again, drawn by something she could not explain. Her eyes settled on the doorway. Him, she murmured. The healers exchanged sharp looks. The human? the queen asked gently. Yes, the princess said. The warm one. The king made a decision then. Bring him, he ordered. Daniel was escorted back into the medical chamber. He felt every alien eye on him as he entered. His steps slowed when he saw the princess awake, sitting slightly upright, supported by glowing medical fields. She looked fragile, but alive. He stopped several steps away, unsure if he should come closer. Princess, he said quietly, bowing his head awkwardly. Her eyes brightened slightly when she saw him. You are real, she said. He blinked. Yes, ma'am. The healers watched closely as the princess lifted her hand weakly. Come closer, she said. Daniel looked at the king and queen. They hesitated, then nodded. He stepped forward slowly. The moment he came within arm's reach, the scanners reacted again. Not violently this time, calmly. Steadily, energy levels rose. The princess smiled faintly. It is you, she said. When you touched me, the pain stopped. Daniel's chest tightened. I'm glad, he said. I didn't mean to scare anyone. You did not scare me, she replied. You brought me back. The healers recorded everything, hands shaking. This confirms it, one whispered. Proximity alone is enough. The queen placed herself between Daniel and the princess slightly, protective but thoughtful. What are you, human? She asked softly. Daniel shook his head. Just a man. The king watched him for a long moment, then turned to his advisors. The galaxy must not know this yet, he said. Not until we understand it fully. Too late. Far beyond the palace, hidden among the stars, unknown sensors had already detected the strange energy spike. Data traveled faster than ships ever could. Somewhere in the dark, others were listening. And they were very interested in humans. The palace did not sleep after that. Lights stayed on in every wing. Healers moved between rooms without rest. Advisors whispered urgently in hidden chambers. Guards doubled their patrols, their footsteps echoing through long halls of crystal and metal. Daniel was moved to a secured guest suite close to the medical wing. It was comfortable, but he could feel the invisible walls around him. 2 guards stood outside at all times. They were polite but alert, watching. He sat on the edge of the resting platform, staring at his hands again. They looked normal, rough from training, scarred from old battles. Nothing special. And yet, those same hands had done something no one in the galaxy could explain. He exhaled slowly. Back in the medical chamber, the princess continued to recover. Not fast enough to walk freely, but fast enough to surprise everyone. Her breathing was steady now. Her skin glowed with soft strength. The damage that should have taken months to heal was repairing itself in days. The healers gathered around a large projection filled with data. The pattern is consistent, one said. Whenever the human is nearby, her recovery rate increases. Another added, even when he is not touching her. The queen folded her arms tightly. Distance? Within several body lengths, the healer replied. Closer proximity produces stronger stabilization. The king's expression darkened. This changes everything. They all knew what it meant. If humans had this effect, intentionally or not, then royal bloodlines, leaders, and even entire species might seek them out, or try to control them, or eliminate them. The queen looked at her daughter, who rested peacefully for the first time since the attack. We will not turn him into a tool, she said firmly. We may not have a choice, the king replied quietly. The princess stirred, sensing the tension. Her eyes opened clear and focused. You are speaking of him, she said. The room froze again, this time out of respect. Yes, the queen admitted. We are... The princess pushed herself slightly upright, ignoring the healer's protests. Then speak where I can hear. The king stepped closer. He is important, my daughter. Dangerous knowledge surrounds him. The princess frowned. He saved me. He did so without understanding how, the king said. That is what makes it dangerous. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, Bring him. Daniel was escorted in again. He felt the shift the moment he crossed the threshold. The warm sensation returned, faint but steady, like standing in sunlight after cold rain. The princess smiled when she saw him. You came back, she said. I was told to, Daniel replied honestly. She studied his face closely. Humans showed emotion so clearly. Fear, concern, care. You are afraid, she said. Yes, he admitted, but not of you. Her smile widened just a little. The healers watched the energy readings rise smoothly. No spikes, no instability. Controlled. Natural. The princess turned to her parents. You fear what he is, she said. But he does not even know it himself. That does not make him safe, the king replied. No, she agreed. It makes him human. The word carried weight. One of the healers finally spoke the truth aloud. Humans evolved without energy cores because they adapted differently. Their biology responds to emotional stress, protection instinct, and physical contact. Their nervous systems create a stabilizing resonance. The room went quiet. Plain words, the queen said. They heal by caring, the healer said softly. Daniel swallowed hard. That sounds impossible. The princess looked at him. You did not choose to save me, she said. You acted. He nodded. She was falling. That instinct, the healer continued, is rare now. Most advanced species replaced it with systems and machines. Humans did not. The king clenched his jaw. And that instinct may now place them in danger. As if summoned by his words, an alarm sounded, sharp and urgent. A guard rushed in. Unknown vessel detected beyond the outer ring. No identification. Advanced cloaking. The room erupted into motion. Lock down the palace, the king ordered. The princess looked sharply at Daniel. Stay with me. Before anyone could object, another alarm sounded. This one closer. They are inside, a guard shouted. The lights dimmed as defensive systems activated. The palace shook slightly as energy barriers rose. Daniel's training took over. He moved without thinking, placing himself between the princess and the entrance. You don't have to, she began. I know, he said. But I will. The first attackers appeared moments later. They were tall, thin alien figures clad in dark armor that bent light around them. Their weapons hummed with lethal energy. Target confirmed, one said coldly. Human asset located. The words sent a chill through the room. Guards opened fire. The attackers moved fast, dodging with unnatural precision. One blast struck a healer, sending him crashing into a wall. The princess cried out. Daniel grabbed a fallen weapon, though it felt awkward in his hands. He fired anyway, forcing one attacker back. An energy blast struck the floor near him, throwing him off balance. Pain flared through his side as he hit the ground hard. The princess screamed his name. The moment she did, the room filled with light. Not violent, not explosive. Strong. The energy reading spiked higher than ever before. Daniel pushed himself up, ignoring the pain. He felt warm again, stronger this time, as if something inside him had woken up. Not power, but resolve. The attackers hesitated. What is this? One hissed. The princess stood. The healers shouted in protest, but she ignored them. She stepped forward, placing her hand on Daniel's shoulder. The warmth doubled. Her voice rang out, clear and commanding. Leave. The energy wave pushed outward, slamming into the attackers like a wall. They were thrown back, their cloaking fields collapsing. Guards surged forward, overwhelming them. Within moments, it was over. The attackers lay restrained, their mission failed. Silence returned, broken only by heavy breathing. Daniel sank to one knee, exhausted. The princess knelt beside him. "You were hurt?" she said. "It's nothing," he replied weakly. She placed her hand over his injury. The pain faded. Daniel stared at her in shock. The healers stared too. "It works both ways," one whispered. The king looked at them, realization settling deep in his eyes. "This is not just healing," he said. "This is connection." Outside the palace, more signals flared across the stars. The secret was out. And the galaxy was about to change. The aftermath of the attack left the palace shaken, but standing. Damaged walls were sealed with flowing metal. Injured guards were carried away by medics. The captured attackers were locked inside energy cells far beneath the palace, watched by layers of security. Daniel was taken back to the medical wing despite his protests. He insisted he could walk, but the healers ignored him. They were far too interested in what had just happened. The princess walked beside him, unsupported for the first time since her injury. Her steps were slow, but steady. Every few moments she glanced at Daniel, as if confirming he was still there. When they reached the medical chamber, the healers immediately surrounded them. "This should not be possible," one said again, voice shaking. His injury healed in seconds. "Not fully," Daniel said, touching his side. "Just enough." "That alone is impossible," another healer replied. The queen entered the chamber, her face pale but controlled. She looked from her daughter to Daniel, then to the healers. "Explain," she said. One of the senior healers stepped forward. "The bond is strengthening," he said. "It is no longer one-sided. When the princess channels energy near the human, his biology responds. When he is injured, her systems react." The king joined them, his expression grim. "A mutual resonance." "Yes," the healer said, "rare beyond measure." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "I don't feel any bond," he said. "I just care if someone's hurt." The princess looked at him then, eyes calm and clear. "That is the bond." The room fell quiet. A council was called within the hour. High-ranking nobles, military leaders, scientific elders, and diplomatic advisors gathered in a secure chamber deep within the palace. Energy shields sealed the room completely. No signals could enter or leave. Daniel stood near the wall, out of place among glowing robes and ancient symbols. The princess sat beside her parents, posture straight despite her recent weakness. The attackers were from the Virel Syndicate, a military commander reported. They specialize in extraction operations, stealing valuable biological assets. "Which means the secret is already spreading," the king said. "Yes," the commander replied. "If one faction knows, others will soon." The queen folded her hands. "Then humans are in danger." Daniel stiffened. "My people didn't do anything," he said. "We didn't ask for this." And yet, an elder said slowly, "Your presence alone alters the balance of power." The princess turned sharply. "He is not a weapon." "Intent does not change outcome," the elder replied. The debate grew heated. Some argued humans should be hidden, protected by royal decree. Others insisted they should be isolated, studied, or even restricted for their own safety. Daniel listened, anger slowly building. "They're talking about us like objects," he muttered. The princess heard him. She stood. The room quieted instantly. "You speak of humans as if they are resources," she said, her voice steady but cold. "I stand here alive because one human did not think of value or power. He thought only of helping someone who was falling." She looked around the chamber. "If you cage that instinct, you destroy what makes it work." Silence followed. The king sighed deeply. "Even so, my daughter, we cannot ignore the threat. Other powers will not be so gentle." Daniel took a step forward. "Then let us choose," he said, "not be chosen for." All eyes turned to him. "We didn't evolve to be gods," Daniel continued. "We evolved to survive. Together. If someone wants to hurt us for that, we'll face it the same way we always have." "And how is that?" the queen asked. "By standing our ground," he said, "and protecting each other." The princess smiled faintly. A new alarm sounded, less urgent but troubling. A communications officer appeared. "Multiple fleets are repositioning near our borders, not attacking, watching." The council understood immediately. The galaxy was circling. The decision came quickly after that. Humans would not be hidden. They would be acknowledged. A formal message was prepared, carefully worded. It did not explain everything, but it confirmed enough. The Aurelian Empire declared humans as protected allies under royal seal. Any harm to a human within imperial space would be considered an act of war. The message spread fast, too fast. Within days, delegations arrived from dozens of species. Some came with curiosity, others with fear, a few with thinly veiled hostility. Daniel was moved to a more public residence within the palace. Guards still followed him, but now their presence was heavier, protective. The princess spent hours each day training her body to full strength again. Daniel often accompanied her, not as a guard, but as support. The healers noticed something strange. When they trained together, her recovery accelerated. When they spoke, laughed softly, or simply sat in silence, her energy stabilized further. Connection, not proximity alone, mattered. Outside the palace, protests erupted on distant worlds. Some species demanded access to humans. Others demanded restrictions. The first open challenge came sooner than expected. A coalition fleet crossed into Imperial space without permission. They did not fire. They sent a message. "Transfer the human," the message said, "or face consequences." The king watched the transmission with cold fury. "They think we will trade him," the queen said. The princess stood beside Daniel. "They misunderstand us." The fleet advanced. Imperial defenses activated. Ships moved into formation, but the enemy outnumbered them. Daniel watched the tactical displays, feeling the familiar tension of an approaching fight. "You don't have to do this for me," he said quietly to the princess. She turned to him. "You do not belong to me," she said, "but I will not let you be taken." The first shots were fired. Space lit up with energy and motion. Ships clashed above the planet, weapons flashing like storms among the stars. Inside the palace, Daniel helped coordinate ground defenses. Humans and aliens worked side by side, communicating with simple words and shared urgency. An explosion rocked the upper levels. "They've breached the outer shields," a guard shouted. The princess closed her eyes, focusing. Daniel felt it again. The warmth, spreading stronger than before, not overwhelming. Grounding, he placed his hand on her arm. "I'm here," he said. She opened her eyes, glowing bright. "I know." The palace shields flared back to life, stronger than before. Energy surged outward, reinforcing the defenses in a way the systems alone never could. Healers stared at the readings. "She's amplifying through him," one whispered. The enemy fleet faltered. They had expected machines. They had not expected unity. The battle ended within the hour. The coalition fleet withdrew, damaged and shaken. Across the galaxy, one truth became clear. Humans were no longer weak, not because they ruled, but because they stood with others. And others stood with them. And this was only the beginning. The galaxy had changed. Not quietly, not slowly. It changed with a ripple that started in one palace and stretched to the farthest reaches of space. News traveled fast. Humans were no longer fragile. They were no longer overlooked. Inside the palace, the princess and Daniel stood together on the balcony overlooking the city below. Tall towers glowed with soft light, and ships moved silently in the sky. The streets were full of citizens, aware that their rulers had survived not only a threat, but a revelation. "You saved me," the princess said quietly. Her silver eyes reflected the lights below, more than once. Daniel shook his head. "I didn't save myself, or even really think about it. I just did what anyone should do." She studied him, curious. "You call it simple, but the galaxy sees it differently." He sighed, then let them see. "I'm just human." The queen joined them, her presence calm but firm. "Human is no longer a small word. It carries weight now, because of you." The princess looked at her mother. "They will come. Others will test us, challenge us. They will try to take what they think belongs to them." The king, standing beside the queen, nodded. "We expected that long ago. But now we have a choice. And humans are part of that choice." Daniel glanced at the stars. "I'm not trained to lead fleets or fight politics." "You do not need to," the princess said. "You only need to be yourself." That is enough. The calm did not last long. Sensors alerted the palace to an approaching fleet, larger and faster than the last. Communications officers scrambled. The message was simple: transfer the human or face total destruction. The council convened immediately. High-ranking officers and alien advisors filled the room, some tense, others curious. Daniel was present, not as a prisoner, but as part of the discussion. "You are outnumbered," the commander said, showing the tactical hologram. "We cannot defeat them by force alone." The princess stood tall. "Then we fight in a way they cannot predict." Daniel frowned. "How?" "You underestimate the unexpected," she replied. "We have allies here who know humans differently than the rest of the galaxy does. And now, I know something about you that even your enemies will not anticipate." He looked at her warily. "You care," she said. "You protect. It is not strength in technology or numbers. It is instinct, and it is rare. That instinct will guide us." The palace's defensive systems glowed brightly. The human soldiers moved alongside alien forces, not out of protocol, but because it was the right thing to do. The enemy fleet arrived above the city, weapons ready. A long, tense pause stretched across the palace as both sides assessed each other. Then, suddenly, the first strike was fired. Energy blasts tore through space, colliding with shields, exploding in bursts of light and fire. Ships maneuvered desperately, but the palace forces had something the attackers had not anticipated: coordination. Humans led the alien pilots in ways no machine or protocol could predict. Simple commands, instinctive decisions, small risks that paid off. Daniel moved beside the princess, guiding her through the control interface. She had regained her full strength, but she let him act. Each time he reached for a console or directed a ship, the warmth she felt surged through her, amplifying her energy. The attackers faltered. Their shields began to fail. Their weapons malfunctioned. Confusion spread among their ranks as unexpected movements tore holes in their formation. The princess stood fully, channeling her energy openly for the first time. Light flared from her hands, reaching the ships and the city defenses. Daniel placed his hand on her arm instinctively, and the wave doubled in intensity. The attackers were thrown back. Ships collided with debris, some destroyed outright, others fled in panic. Within moments, the entire fleet had retreated. The palace stood intact. The city below remained untouched. The council stared at the display, silent. Daniel's chest heaved, exhausted. That was close. The princess smiled, gently touching his shoulder. Close, she agreed. But we survived together, and that is what matters. The king stepped forward. The galaxy has seen what we feared, and what we hoped. Humans are no longer insignificant. They are allies, protectors, and symbols of resilience. The queen nodded. And it is not just their courage. It is the way they care, the way they act, without thinking of reward or title. That is what changed everything. Daniel looked at the royal family, then at the princess. So, what happens now? Now, the princess said, we rebuild, we prepare, and we make sure no one forgets that humans cannot be ignored. In the following days, envoys arrived from across the galaxy, seeking treaties, alliances, and understanding. Some came cautiously, others with open hostility. Each one learned the same lesson. Humans were not weapons to be controlled. They were forces of nature. They were protectors, healers, and unpredictable. The palace adapted quickly. Humans were granted positions alongside alien officials, their instincts now part of strategic planning. Daniel was often at the side of the princess, advising, protecting, and sometimes teaching alien commanders what it meant to act from instinct rather than logic. One evening, the princess and Daniel walked along the quiet balcony again. "You are not just a soldier," she said softly. "You are part of something larger now." "I never wanted to be," he admitted. "I just did what I could." "That is exactly why you are important," she replied. "Others try to control, to manipulate, to plan every move. But humans act from the heart. That makes you unpredictable. That makes you powerful." Daniel smiled faintly. "I guess that's one way to put it." The princess leaned slightly toward him. "I am grateful," she said. "For everything. Not just for saving me, but for reminding us all what it means to care." He looked at her, feeling the warmth between them again. Calm and steady now. "I didn't do anything special." "You did," she insisted. "And the galaxy will remember it." News spread quickly. Across systems, species began to regard humans differently. They were no longer weak. They were not insignificant. They were vital, unexpected, and deeply respected. The first council after the battle declared humans as life-bearers, a title never given before. It meant they were protected by law, revered in symbol, and recognized as key players in galactic affairs. Daniel continued his role beside the princess, but now he was also a symbol. Not for conquest or power, but for courage, care, and humanity. He trained with alien soldiers, shared strategies, and occasionally reminded them of simple truths: protect each other, act without selfishness, and never underestimate the heart. Months passed. Peace settled over the city. The princess had regained full strength. Daniel had learned much about alien culture, but he never lost his humanity. One evening, they stood together on the balcony, looking at the stars. "Do you ever wonder," Daniel asked, "if we could have done this without the fights, without the danger?" The princess smiled softly. "Perhaps, but we would not have known our strength, and the galaxy would not have known yours." He nodded. "I guess some things have to be learned the hard way." She reached out, lightly touching his hand. Warmth spread between them, steady, comforting, and alive. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Daniel looked at her and nodded. I didn't do it alone. And I didn't plan to. I just acted. That's all anyone can do. The stars above them shimmered, as though agreeing. The galaxy had shifted, changed by courage, care, and an accidental touch. And somewhere deep inside him, Daniel realized that humanity had not just survived, they had become something greater, a force of hope, resilience, and life. The princess turned to him once more. "Together," she said. He smiled faintly, finally understanding. Together. And for the first time since the attack, the palace, the city, and the galaxy all felt safe, not because of weapons, power, or politics, but because of the simple, enduring strength of being human. The galaxy would never forget. Humans had arrived, and they had changed everything.